Hi there. In this Alibre Atom3D tutorial, we're going to talk about something that new users are going to run across and it's going to drive you nuts. And that is problems that you'll encounter while sketching. Let me show you just a quick example. I'm going to edit this sketch that I've made. And let's pretend, sketch looks good. It's time to make an extrude boss, right? So I'm going to go up and I'm going to extrude it. And I get this thing that pops up. And I go, dang it, what's the problem? Your sketch is not closed. This could prevent some feature creation. The good news is there's this Show Me button. And what the Show Me button does is it brings up the Analyze Sketch tool, and it gives you all the errors that it's found in the sketch. So the vast majority of the time, it's going to be one of like 3 cases that are going to prevent your sketch from being good. In this case, we'll click Open Loop. And we can see this little red box pops up. And we go, okay, what's that about? Let's zoom in. And we can see that our sketch doesn't touch. So for almost all kinds of feature creation, you're going to need a single, all of your things need to be closed loops. And you can have loops, within loops if you want. That's fine. But what you can't have is open figures like this. This is not valid for almost all kinds of feature creation. So the question is, how do you fix this? Well, the first step is to kind of figure out where the problem is. So again, if you go out of sketch mode, it's going to analyze the sketch when you leave it, and you can say show me, and this box will pop up. So we can kind of zoom in and see, okay, here's the problem. So there's a few ways that you can fix this. The first way is if you grab one of the nodes and you drop it on the other node, they will connect to each other. And that will solve that problem. In some cases, depending on the geometry, maybe it's not that simple, and you need a very explicit way to tell Alibre Atom3D what you want it to do. So you could come up here in that case and use a coincident constraint, and you just click both of the nodes. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to select node 1 and then node 2. And that's kind of achieved the same result as dropping it on the node. So now when we deactivate sketch, there's no automatic notification that our sketch is bad, and we can go ahead and use that to make an extrusion. The next kind of thing that you'll face is something like this. So I've got 2 boxes here, and I'm going to try to go ahead and make a feature, and it says there's some problems. So I'm going to click Show Me, and we see a few more things pop up here. We've got the open loop like we did last time, and this new one called intersection. And when you highlight over intersection, it's going to turn the 2 intersecting figures a different color. So it's these 2 lines. And we say, okay, what's going on here? Because a lot of times these errors are going to be really small. You're not going to notice them, which is why a lot of times you'll have to zoom in. And you can see that, well, this is the problem, right? What we need to do is drag this node onto that node. And sometimes, depending on the sketch that you're doing, the examples do get a little bit more complicated than this. There's lots of different ways that you could fix this, right? You can drag this node here. Maybe that doesn't give you what you want because it changes the position of this line. So maybe the answer is to use the trim tool, and you trim off both of these guys. And that'll result in the same, the same resolution to the sketch problem. So now if we were to exit our sketch again, maybe we'll go into an extrusion. We see that we are able to actually do that now. And finally, we're going to go ahead and go into overlaps. So, this is a pretty clear-cut case of figures overlapping each other. A lot of times when you're designing, especially, for example, if you wanted to make something like, a cross cut, right? There's a few ways that you could do that. You could get the line tool and you could try to, make a cross like this and go around. It's a whole lot of clicking, right? You see where I'm going with this. And, a faster way is just to make 2 rectangles. And then on those 2 rectangles, we'd put some equal constraints. And perhaps some symmetric constraints, and we can kind of start getting where we want. Then the next step would be to use the trim tool and go on the interior of this and get rid of all of this the stuff that's not the outline. So that's a good way to design stuff. You know, we've tried something like that here, but we didn't clear the interior of these out. So let's go ahead and clear these out. And I'm going to get rid of this extra thing that I made. And now that we have these cleared out, and there's one big circle going around, we can definitely use this to create This is suppressed, which is why it wasn't allowing me to use it to create a feature. So I'll right click unsuppress. And now I can use it to make a feature. So, you know, the basic takeaway here is if you're in sketch mode and you see a problem, you know, most likely you have done one of a few things. You've ended a loop. This is referred to as a single loop. You know, not spot on, something like that. And the way that you avoid that is notice the cursor. When I hover over a node or a line, right, my cursor changes. This is the basic line cursor. This is, I'm hovered over this line. And when you see that indication, it means that Alibre Design is going to connect them for you. And if you don't see that indication, that means it will not connect them for you. So pay extra close attention. This is something that you'll do all the time. You'll look at the cursor and say, okay, I'm hovered over this node. I see the node icon. I'm going to single click. Move it around. I'm hovered over this node now. I can see the cursor, double click. And that's how you're sure that you're not making these tiny errors. Again, the other kind of thing, you know, if you're doing the cursor trick where you're paying attention to the cursor every time, you'll almost never have this problem. But sometimes, you know, you'll be designing stuff. You won't quite notice. You'll do you know, a little thing like this, and you'll get some overlaps and you won't realize it. So you know, the solution is to go in and fix it, right? Either, you know, we've done something wrong, maybe the circle's too far over, or perhaps we're trying to get, you know, an extrusion that goes around this loop, which means that we just have to take off everything else, right? And so now we have what we want. So that's a pretty basic overview of the different kinds of sketch problems that you might face and an approach to fix them.